Today we're going to go to Luke chapter 2, and we're going to look at verse 8. And I'm going to show you that there is, there's a hint that Luke chapter 8 gives us a hint to what month Jesus was born. And so that's kind of what we're looking at today was he born in December or was he born in a different month? And oftentimes we say, well, he was born in December because the shepherds were out at night, and in the month of December, the sun sets, like it gets dark around 4:30 ish in December, in the month of December. And so that's pretty easy to believe. However, we got to dive into this scripture, and we got to look at the hint here. And anybody that lives in a desert, like say you live in Arizona or you live in Texas, well, I'm sure you can testify that even during the winter, at night, the temperature drops, to, freezing temperatures. So again, if you're from Texas or from Arizona, or you live somewhere else in a desert, you know that during the winter, especially at night, the temperatures can plummet. And some can plummet close to freezing. So that's one factor that we're going to, that I'm wanting the viewer to look at and to think about. That's one factor. And then the other factor is that the other thing that we're factoring in here is if you raise sheep, if you raise lambs, you know that there's only 1 month for birthing season for lambs. You know that there's only 1 month where lambs give birth. And that month is March. And so that also too is a factor in this. But let's go to Luke chapter 2 verse 8. The very first the very first 2 words, that night. Again, focusing on night, it says that night there were shepherds staying in the fields nearby, guarding their flocks of sheep. So that night, if you go above to 6 through 7, it talks about how Mary gives birth to Jesus. Now, I at first originally thought, well, she could have gave birth and maybe a few months passed, but I noticed the word that night. I noticed those 2 words, that night, meaning it was the same night that Mary gave birth. There were shepherds in the field. Now I've already explained, if you raise lambs, you know the only birthing season is in May. Or, no, excuse me, March, is in the month of March. And in Israel, the only reason why they would be in the fields at night watching the sheep, watching the lambs, is because they were giving birth. There would be no other reason. These shepherds that we read about that were guarding their flocks at night, there would be no other reason why they would be guarding their flock at night. No other reason why they would be out in the fields at night. And also, if you raise lambs, you know that you're not going to take your sheep out at night to graze. You just don't do that. That's, shepherds don't usually take their lambs out at night. I mean, that's really the only reason, and I'm repeating this because I'm putting emphasis on this, is that that's the only reason why a shepherd would be out in the fields at night, is because it's the birthing season. Their lambs are giving birth, right? And I already explained. So when you put everything that I talked about into perspective, that, we know that in the desert during the winter at night, the temperature plummets. And we know that. People in Arizona and Texas, they can testify to that, I'm sure. I'm sure they can testify and say that, yeah, during the winter months, at night, the temperature drops. And so that's really not good for the lambs. They can only withstand a certain, and I kind of forget the average temperature that they can handle, but it's not good for lambs to be out in the cold. They just, their bodies cannot handle it. And so a shepherd would not take their lambs out to graze at night, especially not during the winter months. So there's only 1 month that they would have taken their lambs out in the fields out at night. And that would be the birthing season. So number 2 would be the birthing season. The lambs only have 1 month where they're giving birth, and that's in March. So you put those 2 together right there, and you go, oh, well, now we know that Jesus was born in March and not December. So maybe we need to move, well, one, we need to stop celebrating, trees and things like that, but we also need to maybe move the celebration to March.